Hello and welcome to the 262nd episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, Outsourcing Your Side Hustle with Kat Durston. Now, I am so excited today to bring back someone who has been on the podcast before, Kat Durston, but it has been a minute, you guys. We were just doing the math. The last time that Kat was on the podcast, it was episode 109, and she was talking about becoming a virtual assistant, and that was 153 episodes ago. So it's been
Yes,
a
it was.
minute. And at that time, Kat was still a student. And fast forward to today, she's been a dietitian for a couple of years. She is running her Flourish VA's business, which I'm sure you'll be talking about. And she's got a little, private practice going on. So she's really doing a lot. She's this huge wealth of information, and I'm excited to bring her back as today she's going to be talking about how to outsource within your side hustle. And for most of us when we get started as side hustlers, we're solopreneurs. We're wearing all the hats. We're doing all the things. And it can, really be a struggle on, well, when is the right time to outsource? When is the right time to find someone to help me in this side hustle? So I'm very excited to have you on the podcast today, Kat. I know that you're going to bring a lot of value to our listeners. So let's jump in. So my first question is really tell us more about your journey. Kind of tell us all about you, the journey of being a dietitian to be who started this business to help dietitians and, VA services to where you are now. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me first. So excited to be back and kind of share my story now from where I'm at, but would love to kind of start from the beginning. So definitely, like Katie's saying, I have a little bit of an unconventional path. So I did start my business when I was in dietetic school. I was a kind of before the senior year of college in my DPD program, going to Western Michigan University. And just like a lot of other dietetic students, I was just trying to honestly find a way to make some money on the side. Internships are expensive, college is expensive, but I also wanted to get nutrition education experience. I wanted to work alongside dietitians. I wanted to have a competitive internship application. Kind of all of these variables together led me to just start looking online, seeing what jobs were out there that maybe I could do. I had a pretty strong design and art background. I actually got my first college degree in art and design. And so I was like, hey, maybe I can bring some creativity into this job as well. And so I was just honestly scrolling through, kind of seeing what was out there. And I kept seeing the word virtual assistant pop up. These dietitians were looking for dietetic students, interns to help them create content, write blogs. And I was like, oh, this sounds great. But at the time, I didn't really have a lot of experience in that. So I started out doing that more as a volunteer work. So I found a couple dietitians who were really great and were like, oh, you can come intern with us and do some work for us in exchange for some mentorship. We'll teach you the ways. And I said, great, let's start there. And so I did that for a little bit, found I was pretty good at it. I was like, okay, this could be something. And so after doing it for free for a little bit, which we could always touch on if I recommend that or not, but I think it was good for what I needed it to be for at that time. And so I did that. And then I said, hey, I should start charging for this. I'm pretty good at it. It seemed like it could be a lucrative thing. And so I started sending my resume out to all these postings I saw of dietitians looking for virtual assistants. And I was kind of hearing crickets back. I didn't hear anything back. Everyone was saying no. Maybe I just didn't seem qualified. I was in school still. And so I said, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting these yeses? And so I decided, why don't I put a name to this company? Let's call it Flourish Virtual Assistants. Let's buy an LLC. Let's make a logo on Canva. And so I did just that. And sure enough, started sending out inquiries as Flourish Virtual Assistants, and people started replying back and they wanted to work with the company. They thought it was a great idea. They loved that it was tailored toward dietitians and it was nutrition students. And so that was how Flourish came to be back in, I think it was 2021, kind of September, fall timeframe. And so I did that, slowly building up a client base all throughout my senior year of college and then even into my internship. And it was kind of, 2021 was right after COVID hit. It was this time where everything was going virtual. They were firing their in-house receptionists. They were looking for virtual help. And so we just saw all these dietitians kind of flocking to us, wanting these virtual services. Again, they loved that it was nutrition students, people that knew nutrition. And so I kind of started building up the business, hiring on other students and interns who wanted to also do this work, kind of spreading the abundance, which was great. And so it was nice because I started it as a student, did it all throughout college, graduated, and then also did it all throughout my internship. So it was nice that I had this job that I could slowly grow. And I actually was able to, when I was a student, I was also doing a corporate job just to kind of make money on the weekends. I was able to quit that, pursue Flourish as more of a full time thing while doing my internship. And so it was definitely a grind. I mean, doing an internship and running a business was not
Yeah.
easy, but looking back now, I'm like, okay, I'm so glad I stuck it out because after passing my RD exam back in 2023, I was able to go right into a full time job. I had my business, I could go full steam ahead. And that was really when things were able to take off and I kept hiring. A lot of trial and error with business practices, but eventually we kind of got to this point now, 3.5 years into business, where I have actually 13 people on my team. So I have an amazing team. Some of the people have been with me for a couple of years now, since more back when Flourish started, which is great. I have a lead VA supervisor who works full time with us. She's amazing. And so I just have this kind of team and systems built out. And so we, over the, like I said, the past 3.5 years, now that I've been a dietitian, been able to really build out a team and learn kind of the ins and outs of outsourcing, which has been so great. So,
Yes. I love your story, Kat. I love, first off, that you started as a student. We kind of were talking about this right before we hit record on the podcast, but I feel like so often students feel like, oh, I can't and I shouldn't pursue my own side hustle or my own business. And I love that you stepped out and you did do this, and it was able to provide income stream and also real skills for building businesses during your undergrad, your internship, all of those things. But I even just love the journey. I was kind of jotting down notes as were talking. Like, you started off for free to learn the skill set. Once you learn the
yep.
skill set, then you're like, okay, I'm going to become a VA. It wasn't all, sparkles and sunshine. Everyone's rolling in the door. You failed. You got a lot of no's. So what you did was you did the pivot. You figured out what is going to work. You created this business really to serve you, but then it started serving other people. You built up this business, and then fast forward, you became a dietitian. We're able to go full time and have a team of 13 people. So I hope that people listening were able to pick up
Yep.
all of those little gems that you shared about, kind of how we get started and how we pivot and how things can grow. And for the students listening, I just want you to hear that you can start now. You do not need permission, and you do not have to wait until you are officially a dietitian. And I think of even your journey, Kat, of how, okay, now you're a dietitian, you can dive all in. You've got this business already established, and it would have been a whole different route had you waited until you got that RD credential.
Yep.
So, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I would have had to go through the whole job search, sending everything out, that so many people have to do that. And I was lucky. I'm kind of lucky, but also it was the path I set for myself where I'm like, hey, I can jump right in now. I have this waiting for me here, ready to go. And so if I wouldn't have started as a student, though, I wouldn't have ever been able to have that trial and error period while I was still in school. So I'm so glad I took the leap and just trusted in it and did it anyway. So.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So let's dive into our discussion today about outsourcing. So for dietitians who are juggling side hustles, they might have one side hustle, might have multiple side hustles, but when does it make sense to outsource, to have, or actually maybe we should back up. What are we talking about when we're saying outsource, and when does it make sense for someone to outsource?
Yeah, so outsourcing would be handing off tasks to somebody else. So maybe
Yeah.
these are tasks that you don't like to do. Maybe they're tasks that you aren't good at. That's a big one that you might want to outsource. Again, things you don't have time to do, things you don't like, you're not good at. I feel like those are the hallmark tasks that I would say start outsourcing. And I would say the best time to outsource, that's definitely going to be a little bit variable by person. I think, of course, the more straightforward answer is always when you have too much on your plate and you can't do it all on your own. But I would actually encourage to almost do it a step before you have too much on your plate and try to outsource and look ahead a little bit bigger picture, because once you get to the point where you're kind of drowning in work and you're needing the help, that's going to be almost maybe a little bit of a stressful time to outsource. You're already kind of, have to sit on interviews with people, find somebody, get them the task list. That can take a little bit of effort from you. And so I think trying to think a couple steps ahead, as we always should in business, and outsourcing when you feel like your workload's picking up, you may have that extra income, that business expense income that you can spend on outsourcing. I think that's a great time. Also, again, if you just don't like to do tasks, if you're not someone, you don't like branding, you don't like social media, but you can really see that there's a potential for the ROI, it's going to get that return on investment. That's a good time to outsource when you just feel like there's something you want to get done, but you're not equipped to do it, or you don't want to be equipped. You don't want to take that course and learn how to do it. That could be a great time to just decide, hey, I'm going to outsource to someone else and have them take care of it. And then that's going to save me a lot of effort and time and stress of having to do it yourself. So I think that's also a great time to start considering to outsource.
Yeah, I love that. So outsourcing is handing off tasks to someone else. And I like how you broke it down with something that you don't like or you're not good at or you just don't have time to do. And I, I think so often, especially when dietitian side hustlers are starting, they want to do everything themselves. They want to do everything
Mhm.
for free. They're like, oh, I don't have the money to do that. Versus having this big picture of, well, no, this is investing in your business. And the goal, you mentioned the word ROI. The goal of outsourcing is that you have someone who is doing tasks that is going to move your business forward. And
Mhm.
then, it's not just like money out. It's like, okay, money out so I can make this much more in my
Yeah.
business. And especially the
Mhm.
piece on the things we aren't good at.
Yeah.
There's things we don't like. There are things I do not like in business, but there are things that aren't my strengths. And
Yeah.
when it comes to having a business, there are certain things that you have to do. If you're not getting clients in the door, if you're not billing, if there's certain things that you're not doing, like, and you're not good at, well, by golly, outsourcing to find someone who is good at it, you're going to see suddenly a massive jump in your business and your side hustle. And it really is all about growth. So I love that example. And especially how you said, like, do it before you're burnt out, friends. Don't wait till
Yeah.
you're fried. So
Yeah, I see that. Yep.
so what are some of the kind of things that like, so when we're talking about outsourcing, there's
Mhm.
lots of people you could hire, but in general talking about like hiring a virtual assistant, someone who could
Yep.
hand off those tasks to. But what are some of the things that a VA could actually help with? Maybe dietitians listening are like, I don't even know what can they possibly do. Don't I have to do everything?
Yeah, and I get this question all the time. I would say there's a few levels to it. Starting out, maybe the most basic would be administrative work. So, hiring a VA to help with checking your email inbox. I mean, we know those email
Yes.
inboxes can get crazy, and a lot of us do not like managing that. So, having someone who can help organize, maybe respond to client inquiries or referral outreaching that comes through your website inquiries. So, those can get done in a timely manner, having them respond. Maybe they're reaching out to people coming through the door. They're just kind of organizing, even if they're not replying back. So email inbox is great. Obviously, if you do maybe more of a private practice side hustle, you could have them help with your patient scheduling and onboarding, or even any kind of client onboarding. So that side, kind of more of the administrative work side, handling your schedule. So just making sure that, if you need meetings at certain times or you're trying to fit everything into your schedule, time block, they can help you manage your calendar. I think that can be a great way to just keep you organized so you have the brain space to be creative or grow your business how you need to. So I would say administrative work is one side of it. And then we go into more of the marketing side. So I think you could outsource to a VA. Canva work is a great thing to outsource. We do a ton of that, whether that's social media content, ebooks, PDF handouts, online courses, presentations, really any kind of design that you need in Canva to be done. That's great, I think, to outsource, especially maybe if you're not someone who loves that creative side, or again, you're not good at it. That's something easy that you could outsource to a VA. So we do a lot of that side. Also, just general anything that has to do with maybe website or blogging, you could have a VA help you. Maybe they're not even writing a blog. So we work with quite a few freelance writers who do that as a side hustle. And maybe we're just doing research for them. So we're just
Yep.
researching about their article topic. We're helping them gather media quotes from people. We're helping them organize research studies in a document, and then they're going and they're writing for their publication. And I think that's something people might not think about, but our clients say, hey, that saves us so much time and brain space just to get that creative flow going already. And you have this nice document lined up with everything you need, and you can just write and do what you're good at. And so I think that's one other way you can kind of outsource those small research tasks. Even little things like uploading a blog to your website, uploading a
Mhm.
contact form on your website, those little tasks throughout the day, answering your social media DMs, answering your Facebook group inquiries, email marketing, sending newsletters out. I feel like there's so many little tasks we kind of think of that take up so much space in our day-to-day time as a business owner that would be fairly easy to outsource, of course, depending who the VA is and what their skills are. But I think all of those are pretty common tasks that will get outsourced to, or that I've seen other VAs doing as well. And you can get a little more nitty gritty and specialized with, of course, website design. Insurance billing is kind of a big one for private practices. They might outsource to a VA, but
Mhm.
those might be a little bit more specialized VA. So I say on a more basic level would be kind of more that marketing, administrative, PR work is great to hand off to someone. So
Yes, I love how you broke it into those buckets: admin work, marketing, that content creation. I even think of
yeah.
this podcast. So right now we are recording this on Zoom. As soon as it's done, it is going into a file, and I actually have a virtual assistant who is going to drop this interview into, they're going to add on the introduction to the podcast. They're going to upload it to the podcast, platform that I use, and I love working with VAs. So I hope that got the wheels turning of like, okay, what are the things that I could potentially hand off? And you said something, you said a VA can help you to be more organized and to have the time and brain space to be creative and build your business. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is so important to touch on, is that can you do all the things yourself? Yes. But what are the things that only you can do? Only you can be the creative visionary. Only you can
Mm-hmm.
create that time, which a lot of people don't schedule. I actually schedule time every week in my planner to be creative and visionary, because this
Oh,
is
yeah.
how we are business owners and grow. And if you don't have to worry about those things of like, okay, posting that blog article I wrote, or like you said, I loved how you mentioned doing the research, like all of these little tasks that take a lot of time. And by the time
Mm-hmm.
you're done, your brain just doesn't work and you're fried and you just want to like go zone out. A VA is going to be a game
Yep.
changer. And I feel like for anyone who's listening who's never worked with a VA, I feel like it's one of those things that you will never go back. You'll be like, why didn't I
Yes,
hire
I
someone sooner?
agree. We hear that so much because it also feels as if someone's in your corner and this weight is off your shoulder because you have someone to go to, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, you're on your own. We work with a lot of those where you don't really maybe have someone to just bounce ideas off or give a small task to. And just having that person in your corner, I think, is so helpful mentally to feel like you can give something off to them and take that off your plate. And you have somebody there for you, almost a coworker, a teammate. And that alone has a lot of merit and value in that, even them just being there for you to talk through with you, have a collaborative effort. That's super important, especially when we work from home. If you do have work from home side hustle, we need that interaction. And so I think if you feel a little stagnant in your business, you're doing all of these things and you don't have that space to sit and look big picture and how can I grow and how can I expand? How can I do more passive income streams? I mean, passive income is hard to build because you're usually not making money right away on it. But if you have a VA who's taking all these little tasks from you, you might have the brain space to then work on that ebook or that course that's been sitting in your Google Docs for 3 years that we all have. You can finally make that because you have someone who's doing all the little tasks that you, like you said, burn you out by the end of the day. So I think there is a lot there that if you're kind of at that point where you're not sure how to get to the next step, maybe outsourcing can help you feel like you have that space to get there. So
Yes. So for someone who might be listening right now, they're like, okay, Kat, you're selling me on outsourcing. What would be the process that they would go through for hiring a VA if they were like, okay, I want to do this? What's that process look like?
yeah. So I would say, I'm going to say what in my experience, would be what I would say it could be, because I've hired a lot of VAs. So what, not like ideal process, but almost that, what I think could be the best way to go. So first off, sitting down with yourself, maybe having a rough idea of what you'd like them to do is helpful. Drafting up a little bit of a task sheet, maybe having a budget or an hourly amount that you think the work, maybe you're doing the work, maybe you time yourself for a couple of weeks, see how long it's taking you to do the work, and then you might be able to judge a little bit how much time you're looking to hire someone for. And I say, get your thoughts together. And then I really like doing a Google form type application. I think it just streamlines it and you don't have 50 emails coming through when you decide to hire. So doing some kind of Google form application if you want to go that route, just asking them basic questions, have a spot to upload their resume. That can be helpful. And then you can honestly, I feel like Facebook groups are one of the best places to find VAs. I don't know how many of you dietitians might be in some of these dietitian Facebook groups. I know they're pretty popular, but posting in there saying that you're looking to hire a VA, if anyone's interested, posting your Google form, having them fill that out if they're interested. Again, I think that's the most streamlined way. You could also look around, do a quick Google search, virtual assistant for dietitians, see what pops up, see who's out there, who might be a good option, maybe create a Google Doc again of your options, get on discovery calls with them. I feel like that's kind of step one to figure out who's going to be the best fit. And then after that, of course, doing interviews. I think interviews important. You want to get on a call because your VA, you want it to be someone you communicate well with, who you feel like understands you and your business. You have similar personality styles because this is someone you're going to be working fairly close with. So I think, maybe even compared to someone you hire in other scenarios, I think your VA, you want to have a similar communication style to them if possible. So getting on an interview discovery call with them is really helpful to chat through and have some good questions. So asking them even things like that of what is your availability, like what times of the day do you tend to sign on and do work? Are you an evening person? If they're a student or intern, can you only do evenings? Because if you want someone checking your email inbox, you might not want them responding to emails necessarily super late at night, or inquiries are coming in. You might want someone available in the morning, or maybe you don't really care, they can schedule it out through Google, you're fine either way. But knowing those things and asking those questions, I think sometimes gets a little bit overlooked. So I think it's important to just ask the right questions to find the best fit for you. And maybe you want to work with a VA team like ours, or maybe you want someone who can kind of grow and end up growing in and working with your business long term. I think there is value in that as well. And so really deciding what you might want out of a VA is a great idea. And then after you do discovery call, decide you want to move forward. Contract is going to be super important. And if there's anything I've learned over the past 3.5 years, it's that the more detailed and tighter and that you can make your contract, the better. I think there's just so much that you want to just have written out about communication timelines. How fast do they have to reply to you? 24, 48 hours? What holidays do they have off? I know this sounds so nitty gritty, but when you're in a professional relationship, it helps the VA and you both have clear expectations on what's going on. Whose intellectual property is the content? Is that the client or is that the VA's? You should talk about that. That should be in your contract. What is the hourly rate? Is there any other fees? Is there a late invoice fee? All of that should be in the contract, whether you're providing it or the VA is providing it. But I will say, depending who you work with, the VA might not provide it. And then you might want to look up like a basic independent contractor agreement if you're going to go that route and edit it and make sure that it kind of fits what you both expectation wise. So I think that would be a really overlooked part of the hiring process that I think is really, really important. And I'm learning that as I go as well, truly how important that initial contract is. And so I think that would be probably the process. And then you kind of get started in working with them. That's going to really just depend on who the VA is and what processes they have as far as kind of next steps after that. But I'd say that would be kind of a typical hiring process.
Love that. I'm going to repeat what you said, just high level. So pretty much prepare.
Yeah.
Are the tasks you want them to do? How long might it take? Like do a little bit of prep work, and then finding the VA. So creating like maybe a simple Google form, sharing it in Facebook groups, trying to find someone. Or you kind of mentioned this too. Or you can go with the VA group. Like I'll just give a plug for Flourish VAs. I mean, Kat has a program here. If you're like that's too much, Katie, go check out her website. It's like a bunch of VAs right there. So it's kind of
Yeah.
twofold, right? So you
Mhm.
can go with a team or you can find one independently. And then interview, get on calls, make sure you find the right fit, have a really strong contract in place and get started. And I emphasize the contract piece too. Miscommunication happens. It's good
Yeah.
for both people. You don't want to have someone that you hire working with you and they're so frustrated, like, oh my gosh, you're horrible to work with. And it's just because of the communication is missing. And so having those really strong expectations on both sides is valuable for you and them. And then no one's a mind reader. And oftentimes I feel like miscommunication, we just get frustrated because, well, I thought this and you thought this, and neither of us are wrong. We just didn't have it in writing. So,
Yeah.
yes to contract.
Yes, yes, and it might sound a big scary thing. I feel like when I at least started in freelancing or side hustling, it does seem a little scary. You're like, contract, this is scary, but I think, like you said, it doesn't need to feel. It is a big deal, but it doesn't need to feel so scary. I think it can be a really beneficial thing for both people, and I again can't stress enough just to do it the right way the first time if you can. You'll be so much happier. Like you said, it takes all the miscommunication, most of it out, and clear expectations are great on both parties.
For sure. So we're kind of running down on the questions, but I do have a couple more I wanted to ask you. So, what are some of the common misconceptions that you often hear about hiring a VA? I mean, we're here saying yes, outsourcing is great, a VA can be a huge help, but what are some of the misconceptions out there?
Well, one thing you mentioned, this being towards people with side hustles, I feel like there is a miscommunication that the only people who hire VAs are people that maybe have a full-time business, a huge group practice, something that they're doing a full-time entrepreneur. But I don't think that needs to be the case. I think even if you're making money in your side hustle of any kind and you feel like you have the bandwidth to outsource, the funds, the budget to outsource, I think that it can be a great way to grow your side hustle. I mean, I was outsourcing when this was just my side hustle. I had some people on my team doing similar hours that I was doing. I was just running it. And I think that it helped me grow and helps you generate, like you mentioned also in the beginning, helps you generate that more revenue. That's always the goal. And so I think a misconception is that you have to be this big business to outsource. So I think that would be one thing you definitely do not need to be. I would say another would be that you have to outsource for a bunch of hours a month. I think that's not true. Some people are like, oh, I need to do 20, 25, 30 hours to outsource. And we offer packages as low as 4 to 8 hours a month. I think even just getting
Yeah.
those small tasks out of the way for just a couple hours a month, like you said, maybe it's just your podcast editor, maybe it's just a YouTube editor, maybe it's someone who just manages your community groups. It can be a really small thing that still takes the load off of you. So don't be afraid, even if you're thinking I might not have enough work to give away, as long as it's at least enough hours. And of course, this will vary on the VA you hire, but most I think are open as long as you have some work to give away. And then hopefully, as they're making you money back, you can increase hours. That's always the goal, right? Is that if you're making more money in your business because of your VA, then you can start to give them more and more work as your business grows. But it doesn't need
Yeah.
to start out being a ton of work right away. So I think that's definitely another misconception that you need to invest a lot. I think that's another thing is that relative to other potential things you to outsource in business, I think being a VA can be affordable. I think you can make it that way if you are able to do the right sorts of tasks that are going to make your business more money. Then I like if you're doing social media as maybe a private practice dietitian and they're bringing clients in the door for you and paying clients and they're paying you, that can be a great thing. So it might feel like an investment at first. It's going to be an investment whenever you're spending money on a business. It is a business expense though, which is nice. So I think if you can kind of create a budget for it and allow it, I feel like it is kind of misconception, oh, hire VA is too expensive for me or I'm not there yet. I think as long as you obviously can be realistic with it, even just a couple of months too, maybe you're not hiring a VA for 3 years, maybe it's just you're going on maternity leave is a big time that will help clients because you don't want to answer your emails when you're on maternity leave. Hire a VA for 3 months, those little times in your life. Maybe you're going on a trip somewhere, you just want extra bandwidth. Maybe hiring a VA, even short term, I think can be a great idea.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I even like that idea of like just for a period, like maybe you're going to go on
Mm-hmm.
vacation or maternity leave, or you just want, yeah, these are great. And I like that you mentioned business expense. And while
Mm-hmm.
Kat and I are not, we are not lawyers, we are not accountants, but sharing experience of, for me as a business owner, one of the great things about a business expense is it decreases my taxable income. And any side hustler out there, if you're making money, you are spending money in taxes. And why not use some of the money you're making to invest in something that is going to help you make more money because the money's going out in taxes anyways? Why not, send the money out and getting
Exactly.
people to get you back your time? So I think for a lot of people
Exactly.
getting started, that's like, oh, what's a business expense? But yeah, wonderful
Mm-hmm.
business expense. So, okay.
Yes, I
So
agree.
so we talked about lots and lots of different things, and I know for listeners sometimes it can be overwhelming of like, oh, okay, but what is one simple step that someone can take if they're considering outsourcing? Like just one simple thing they could start doing today.
I would say maybe just really considering what you're doing in a day to day that are those three categories talked about. You don't like it, you don't have time for it, or you're not good at. And maybe you just start there of being aware of the tasks that are draining you, that you don't make you happy, that you don't like showing up for, or that you're showing up for and you're not producing what you want to produce. It's not giving you anything back. Maybe you're doing social media, you're not getting anything in return. You're trying SEO, nothing's coming out of it. You're just not getting that back. Just start to make a list. Maybe it's a notes app, a Google Doc, just a short list of XYZ things that maybe I could give out one day. And it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but just starting that list. And then when you feel ready, you have this list to refer to, or maybe you don't feel ready and it just sits there. But then at least it kind of every time you go back to it, it can show you, oh, maybe these are and things that I could do to free up space and my time, give me space to do what I like to do and do best. And so I think just starting there with just that awareness of what would outsourcing look like for me? Would this make me happier in my life? Would I enjoy this? Is this something that could help me? And so just kind of having that list there maybe would be what I would say would be the first step.
That is great advice. It starts with awareness, and you might not even be aware how you're like, oh, actually, I totally despise doing this, or yeah, I'm
Yeah.
totally burning myself out. I need to outsource.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kat, for coming on and sharing with our listeners just your wealth of information that you have. Where can our listeners connect with you online, and also where can they learn more?
Yes, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. And so, if you want to connect more, I would recommend you can follow us on Instagram at Flourish VA is a great place to find us. I do have a Flourish Friday newsletter, which I will give to Katie to put in the show notes or wherever, a link to that. I send out weekly Friday newsletters with just honestly marketing, media tips for dietitians, all different kinds. I do like viral social media ideas, email marketing tips. So that will just get sent to your inbox every Friday, just kind of free knowledge and information. I have like a free RD resource of the week I include in there. So I'll put different free resources that I found that I think could be helpful. So definitely recommend following our newsletter. And then we do have a Facebook group. It's called Virtual Assistants for Dietitians. That's actually a great place to find a VA. It's a completely free group, and dietitians go in there and post when they're hiring, and all the different VAs around can apply to your position. So if you have that Google form or you just want to post in there, get a feel for things, you can go ask questions in there about hiring. So I think that's really great resource. I think we have about 5,000 now in that group, which is amazing. So definitely recommend joining that group. I feel like that'd be the best way. And if you do want to work with us, you want to see what being hiring a VA could look like, you can always get on a discovery call with me, and flourishassistance@gmail.com is our email. So would love to kind of chat with you about anything that is on your mind.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all of those resources. And thanks so much, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much.